Let's bring in Fox News senior judicial analyst right now, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think it's a little bit in the weeds, because if you have the former FBI director making a case for attempted obstruction of justice or even bribery against the President of the United States and making it in a fairly forceful way, whatever you think of him as an FBI director, that is certainly enough to trigger an investigation. So I think both sides are right. I think that the president is being investigated, but he is not a target. A target means they plan to bring charges against you. So when Jay Sekulow says he hasn't gotten a target letter, that is probably technically true, but it doesn't mean that he's not being investigated. Stated differently, the FBI must investigate allegations of the nature and quality that James Comey alleged in that Senate testimony that he gave.
Yeah, I don't know why the president feels the need to respond to something like a Washington Post report. He calls them fake news anyway, so why respond?
Well, you know, he's had tremendous success in
energizing
his base with his tweets. No human being in the modern era has had the success that he has in communicating with his supporters and bypassing the media. But this is a dangerous area for him, because we now see federal judges taking literally Sean Spicer's statement, the president's tweets are official government communications, and federal judges using statements made in the tweets to undermine oral arguments that his Justice Department is making in court. So he, at times, while undermining the base, may be working at cross purposes with what his Justice Department is trying to persuade federal judges.
This may not be a fair question, Judge, but what's your gut feeling? Where is this going?
I don't know. I wish I did. I don't know where it's going, but I do believe that as I just said to all of you, the allegations that James Comey made were said with such credibility and confidence that they can't be ignored and they will be investigated. Now, here's the good side of this. Sometimes the FBI, in the early stages, before you're a subject down here, before you're a target up here, you're sort of in the mix. They may want to exclude certain people from becoming subjects and targets, and in order to do that, they have to conduct an investigation.
Look, I think we should start looking at where the real obstructionism has been and where we know it was. Senate Republicans are now turning their attention and their investigative eyes to former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Some are saying that they want her to testify after alarming accusations by the former director, Jim Comey, in his recent congressional testimony. Here's one thing he said.
At one point, the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. But that was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly.
So that was one of three things people are talking about in terms of why Loretta Lynch needs to be investigated. Number one, the matter versus investigation. Number two, the tarmac meeting. 2 days before Hillary Clinton was to testify, she met with her husband, President Clinton, on her plane. And number three, apparently there's a memo floating around that has not been widely disseminated, but that basically suggests that Loretta Lynch said, I'll be getting involved. I'll make sure the FBI investigation of Clinton doesn't go too far.
Now, we don't know if this memo exists, but the reports on the memo are the recipient of it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
That's right.
The then chair of the Democratic National Committee. Now, this is back before the DNC, when Bernie Sanders' candidacy was still alive and Mrs. Clinton had not yet been exonerated by Jim Comey. Just as I said that Comey painted enough of a serious case against the president to warrant investigation by the special prosecutor, he clearly painted enough of a case against Loretta Lynch to be investigated by not the Senate Judiciary Committee, but the same FBI, the regular FBI, the Justice Department, not the special prosecutor. Now, it is odd and has only happened in rare instances that an attorney general investigates his predecessor. It happened, of course, when John Mitchell, Richard Nixon's attorney general, was prosecuted and convicted and went to jail. But I'm telling you, there are enough allegations stated in a credible way, supported by other forensic evidence, like we saw pictures of her with Bill Clinton, to warrant a criminal investigation of Mrs. Lynch for misconduct in office. Did she use the Justice Department as a political instrument to shield Hillary Clinton from prosecution.
Not to mention all of the spying that went on and the unmasking. Then there's that. I'm just throwing this out there because there's a fair amount of things out there to investigate. At this point.
But remember, this is not Bob Mueller. This is Jeff Sessions. And whoever is running, it's still Andrew McCabe because
that's a good point.
Christopher Wray has not yet been confirmed. It is the regular DOJ that should be investigating her.
What I'm worried about is what happens in Washington, it seems like all the time, which is all these various issues now get molded together. The public becomes utterly confused over where we're going with this, and eventually it all goes away and dies.
Well, right now it gives the impression of either scandal or instability, neither of which is good to give that impression coming from the Justice Department, which is supposed to be relatively neutral, doing the right thing, enforcing the rule of law, devoid of politics, and above the fray. It doesn't seem to be that way right now.
Which is why I brought up the memo, because there is also speculation that it's totally fake.
Yes.
I mean, does it exist or not? We don't know.
Yes, we do know that the Matter thing is true because you'll get
the Matter is true.
You'll get a kick out of this because, Mike, you lived in this environment. FBI agents were poking the director in the ribs saying, oh, you're now the director of the Federal Bureau of Matters because it's a criminal investigation. Where's this Matter nonsense coming from?
We got to change the logo. It's going to cost money.
All right, let's talk about a case that's really rocked Hollywood, and that is, of course, Bill Cosby. A shocking outcome to the Bill Cosby sexual assault trial. Yesterday, the judge declared a mistrial after the jury was deadlocked after 52 hours of deliberation. Judge, what does this mean for the case against the comedian? Walk us through what a mistrial looks like.
A judge must determine that no further deliberation time is likely to change anybody's opinion. Now, we don't know if it's 11 to 1 or 6 to 6 or some combination. You obviously need unanimity for conviction and unanimity for acquittal, and they didn't have unanimity. Some judges will just ask the jury foreman, can you tell me, Madam Foreman, whether or not, in your opinion, any further deliberation will help? Some judges, this is what I used to do, will ask each individual juror, don't tell me how you're voting. That's none of my business. I want to know if you still have an open mind or if you are steadfast, and nothing else will change that opinion. And once the judge comes to that conclusion, well, then it's simply a waste of time. The prosecutors have announced that they will retry him probably in the fall or the winter. This is a very, very strange case because he received a promise, Bill Cosby, from a prosecutor. Don't worry, you're not going to be prosecuted. You can give a deposition and tell what happened. He gave the deposition. The prosecutor died. The new prosecutor came in and the judge said, well, the promise is only good for as long as he's the prosecutor. So they can use your own words against you. That's called a built-in appeal after conviction.
That's incredible. Judge, thank you. Great insights as always from you, Judge Napolitano.